Secretary Jimenez, officers and staff of the PHILTOA, other distinguished guests from government, the business community, civil society, the academe and the diplomatic corps, fellow members of MAP, members of PHILTOA, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. You know, it's a difficult job to be president of the Management Association of the Philippines because I was doing a lot of multitasking. I just came from the other room where we had our breakfast dialogue with Secretary R.C. Bansakan, who is, of course, the head of NEDA. This is the 12th dialogue we have had with members of the Cabinet of the President. Of course, we were fortunate earlier to have a dialogue with Secretary Jimenez, where we found out the great plans and programs of the department, as well as the convergence that is now happening among the different departments of government to ensure that the results are there, that services are delivered, and also for us to identify areas where the Management Association of the Philippines can come in. I would like to say that it is not only in matters related to the respective departments, but also in matters of good governance. For example, while I was in New York, we were still able to arrange for a lunch dialogue with a very high government official led by MAP and other heads of business organizations to discuss the very controversial, very up-to-date issue of PDAF. And I'm happy to inform you that the day after President Aquino gave his statement on the abolition of PDAF, which carried a lot of items which were discussed in that particular meeting. So let me just put in context the reason why MAP is very much involved in this tourism forum. It is because in 2012, MAP signed a memorandum of agreement with the Philippine ASEAN Business Advisory Council, PHILTOA, and the East Asia Business Council as part of its efforts to generate increased awareness on the ASEAN Economic Community, or AEC. The goal is to help Philippine business gear up for the ASEAN integration implementation scheduled to commence by 2015. In our meeting just this morning, issues were raised on the fact that in 1988, China came out with their 50-year vision. Of course, Singapore has come up with their 40-year vision and so on. And somebody raised why we haven't come out with such a vision. And I made a remark, I said, well, if you look at China, you know that 50 years from now, the people, the party, the Communist Party, will still be in power in China. If you look at Singapore, and you can say 40 years from now, we can be assured that 40 years from now in Singapore, most probably the party in ruling now will still be in power. And therefore, the ability of other nations to be able to move forward in a sustained fashion is also due to the fact that the ruling parties or the ruling group has been in power through all these years. And therefore, there is a continuity insofar as the plans and programs are concerned and as the visions are concerned. But in the Philippines, sadly, that may not be the case because we're really, as we say, very, very democratic. However, it is important for us to realize that the only way we can move forward in a particular direction is if there is a roadmap. And it is a roadmap that is planned, put together, committed to by the private sector. And that the private sector should be the one to tell the government, this is where we'd like to go, this is where our resources are going to go. Help us by making sure that all your resources also go in that direction. And of course, we were not looking too far off, not 20 years and so on, because we all know that by 2015, we will have the ASEAN integration, as you have seen earlier in the video. As part of this preparation, the 2013 MAP Board of Governors created the ASEAN Integration Committee to pursue a series of sessions on ASEAN integration that we call it the AEC Exchange, with the September 10 MAP International CEO Conference as the culminating event, where in Makati, Siang next week, all our speakers are in fact international and regional speakers, where we will learn from them how they have prepared and what are their plans for their own countries and business sectors in 2015. We started the AA Exchange in March when we invited former ASEAN Secretary General Rodolfo Severino to share key things about integration. We called it AEC 101. In April, MAP discussed the impact of the free flow of goods in an ASEAN free trade area, especially on the manufacturing sector. By the way, we're happy to note that in the second quarter, the manufacturing sector had a contribution of 10.3%. And we are now seeing that manufacturing is starting to give in its contribution, and you and I know this is an area needed in the country if we are to have better employment opportunities. In May, MAP focused on enhancing ASEAN services and moving people in an integrated region. In June, MAP discussed the country's capability to produce and supply AEC-ready human resources by discussing the state of education in the Philippines. And we're happy to note that CHED and DepEd, especially CHED, together with the private sector associations, educational associations, are moving towards putting in place the standardization of accreditation in the ASEAN and to make sure that the Filipino graduates are ready. In July, MAP discussed opportunities to achieve freer flow of capital and investments within ASEAN. This first Philippine Tourism Forum, the business of tourism, by the people, of the people, and for the people, is MAP's second to the last event on the AEC. On Tuesday next week, that is September 10, I mentioned that we will have the MAP International Conference with the title Business Beyond Borders, Global Perspectives, Domestic Dynamics. The integration of ASEAN's economy spells opportunities and risks for businesses across all industries and levels. This is why MAP has been holding the AEC Exchange Forum. MAP wants members of MAP and the business community to learn more about AEC and the threats and opportunities it brings, and to prepare for AASC. Incidentally, one of the results of our meeting and dialogue with our counterparts in the government sector is that the business sector is now ready to invest. NEDA Secretary General, Director General RC just mentioned that he was looking at the figures and it looked like it's only just last year that the domestic investors were coming in and putting up their money. And when Secretary Jimenez joined us during that dialogue, at the end, MAP promised that we'll get our members to be able to put in funds into tourism. And Mr. Secretary, one of our members has bought an island and is going to transform it into a tourism area. Although Secretary Pahe corrected me and said, you cannot buy an island in the Philippines. So let me say that he just bought most of the land in that island. That's the way I should say it. With the AEC's goal of a single market and production base characterized by free movement of goods and services, investments, capital, and labor, it is imperative that businesses gain more insights on the ASEAN initiatives being pursued and the opportunities or pitfalls that will soon be encountered. Our September 10 MAP General CEO Conference will gather vibrant companies from across ASEAN to talk about their experiences in bringing their businesses to the global market. The conference will feature success stories of some of the most notable enterprises from different industries in the region. The details of this event are in the conference brochure in your kit. That's the commercial. You know, I'm learning from Secretary Jimenez. We must always push forward the events that we want to make sure that people know. Incidentally, also part of our dialogue with Secretary Ona was, you know, a lot of businessmen didn't realize that there was actually a lot of opportunities in the health sector for them to invest. And on a very personal level, I will tell you, my son, who was doing residency in orthopedic surgery in the UP PGH decided to resign. He said, you know that, I don't think this country needs an orthopedic surgeon. I think this country needs public health doctors. So he's decided to go into public health. And so I was thinking, public health, oh, that's rural public health. So he'll be all over. But then, it turns out he has a legal entrepreneurial aspect. And so he's going to start the first of what he calls a series of birthing clinics all over the Philippines. And the first one will be in Pampanga in the next few months. And again, that will obviously be very useful. Secretary Ona has indicated that this will allow us to bring down child mortality rates if we have all these birthing clinics, where, by the way, it's not birthing, it's not only in terms of helping giving birth, but actually preparing the mother with prenatal services and so on. So again, this is an indication of how the younger generation is looking not only at helping the people, but helping the people in a sustainable manner so that then the businesses can continue. So today, when we look at this tourism forum that we are happy to be part of it. And I congratulate PHILTOA for the success of this tourism forum. But let me also thank the MAP Tourism Committee, chaired by Mr. Joe Magsaysay, with Mr. Rafi Alunan as governor in charge, and the MAP ASEAN Integration Committee, chaired by Mr. Julie Del Mundo, for ensuring MAP's participation in this forum. Let me acknowledge the project manager for the forum, MAP Tourism Committee and MAP ASEAN Integration Committee member, Alma Jimenez. Let's give them all a big round of applause. Together, let us build on today's discussion and sharing in order that the Philippines and the ASEAN will have a better future. Incidentally, when we studied all the industry sectors, and we have now tentatively come up with an agreement with NEDA for MAP and NEDA to focus on 8 areas. Of course, tourism is going to be one of them, where we'll be working together for roadmaps and ensuring that the private sector will really put money in. Instead of putting money in the banks, we're asking the private sector to put the money in business ventures. Because if you look at our data, having been a former member of the Monetary Board of the Central Bank, I can tell you that the banks are awash with money. The funds are all there, but they are not using these funds to invest into ventures which can create the jobs for our country. And therefore, we have to move forward in that particular direction. And we have seen that the industrial sectors or the economic sectors where the growth is greatest are also the sectors where the private sector are well organized and the private sector are taking the lead, not waiting for government alone. And that, I think, is very important. As you and I know, in the tourism sector, an active partnership between the Department of Tourism and your own organization should be able to lead to better results, not only for tourism, but more importantly, for the Philippine economy.